People assume that if I'm not a Democrat anymore, then I must be a Republican or I must be conservative. I still consider myself a liberal, but liberalism has changed, and I don't fit there anymore.
As a black kid growing up in Texas, you were taught that you had to support Democrats because Republicans were for white people, supporting the rich, and we definitely weren't rich.
Basically, our default setting is to be a Democrat.
I'm a Democrat. My parents are Democrats. I was a huge Obama supporter.
In the 2016 primary, I voted for Bernie Sanders.
I mean, I was a socialist.
And it wasn't until we got married and began expecting our own family that I began to kind of question whether or not the things that we were really promoting and supporting were in line with the way we were living. And that was when the shift kind of began for us.
I was renting a room in this woman's apartment. She had 3 or 4 kids from 3 or 4 different fathers. She was my age. Most of them were incarcerated. I asked her, "What do you do?" She goes, "I'm in the system." It feels like Democrats sort of get people hooked on this drug of free money, where they basically say, you know, if you want your fix, you have to keep voting for us.
And then this bold man comes down an escalator in New York City. I couldn't come out and say it right away, but deep down inside, I knew it was gonna be the first Republican that I ever voted for.
His entire campaign, Worse for All Americans, that was a turning point for me.
One of the hardest things to do is to challenge your own beliefs. Going straight to the source is really how I was able to overcome some of those pitfalls. And so I want people to hear my story and know that you can actually go from being a democratic socialist to a Trump supporter, but you have to look deeper.
I think there's a political realignment that's taking place. I've always been very anti-war, and now Trump is by a mile the anti-war candidate. I've always been very much for free speech. Trump is now by a mile the more pro-free speech candidate.
What's at stake in November is pretty much everywhere you look. You either see prosperity and liberty and things that you want to preserve, or if you're a Democrat, everywhere you look, you see something you want to tear down and remake in the image of some other country that's not as successful as we are.
I'm trying to conserve our values, our Constitution, our God-given rights, right to bear arms, freedom of speech, all the things that has always made this country great.
You know, it took me a good long time to get here, but I hope that Trump wins and that we can continue with the progress that he's made and the policies that he's put into place. Let's get our economy back on track and let's be moving in the right direction.